Hello, we're John and Elizabeth. We're on board Corrick. We spent the summer without an outboard motor for our dinghy, and that wasn't a crisis. But we have now fixed that as a problem in anticipation of going slightly further afield. Hope you find this useful, both the selection of what we chose and how well it works. Hope you enjoy the video.
Thank you.
Well, we had a dinghy and we managed to inflate it and get going on it a couple of times in the summer, but we didn't travel very far, and therefore when we were either at anchor or on a mooring buoy, we were trying to get away from pubs, never mind get to them. So we didn't use it very much at all. But we knew in the back of our minds that we would need it a little bit more, and we looked at a number of options, everything from a little petrol outboard through to various makes of electric, and they all had advantages and disadvantages, but what we couldn't see was anything that was going to stow easily, charge easily, use easily, and not make the back of the boat look like a scrapyard.
Yeah, junkyard. Because I think the storage was the most important.
It was maybe one of the most important, and we didn't really want to be using petrol because of the smell.
And environment.
And the environment, of course, and hanging it over the back rail, which is another big lump to get damaged. The outboard motors that were electric that we saw all looked very similar to the design of the
Outboard motor.
the outboard, just a different propulsion, and therefore we'd have to store and charge a completely separate battery. And then one day we were wandering through a marina shop, as you do, and you spotted
The Timo.
the Timo. So we'll show you this when we put it in the boat, but this looks like it's an electric motor. Its battery is encapsulated in the...
It reminds me of a plasterer's
whisk, yeah. So we don't know how well it's going to work, so we've inflated the dinghy. We're going to put it in and we're going to go for a little bit of a test in a benign environment. Today it's flat calm. And
with the battery topped up, so we can see how far we can go, because this is going to be quite important when we go to Scotland.
What I don't want to do is have range anxiety, so we'll see how we go. So we'll pump the dinghy up, chuck it in the water, attach the outboard, go for a little drive and let you see how that gets on.
And hopefully we won't drop it over the edge at the back.
Oh dear. Couple of golden rules just worth reiterating. It's always a good idea to inflate your dinghy well ahead of you wanting to use it, then you get a chance to see if it's going to go down. Make sure it all stays fully inflated, fit and attach the oars, and tie, especially if you're going to leave it for any length of time, tie the boat to the jetty, because they have been known to flip up in the air and disappear. The other thing you also want to be doing is life jacket. Always wear a life jacket. And I would highly recommend putting your wet weather trousers on, just because they're always wet. Now, let's have a quick look at this Timo thing. Elizabeth, would you like to...
Certainly, John.
So let's have a look at the Timo. This is it here. So what we have is, as Elizabeth says, it's a sort of egg whisk type thing. The battery is in the shaft. It isn't massively heavy.
No, I think I could... handle this without any problems.
Okay, and it's got a little clamp here to extend the arm, and a little fitting piece here that fits onto the back of the boat. And if I just have a quick look at the back here, I took the outboard mounting plate off in the shed and fitted this here, which will be where the outboard connects to. Yep. So let's get that done now, shall we? Let's get the boat in the water. Elizabeth and I then slid the dinghy into the water. Elizabeth passed me the outboard. I undid the securing bolt off the very top, slid the Timo on, and it's quite easy to handle, although I got it round the wrong way the first time. It only goes on one way. Secured the bobble on the top so that it wouldn't go anywhere. I then needed to think about just exactly how we were going to stow it. The arm extends out, and there's a red band there showing the maximum extent. Put the clip on, and then it was just a case of stowing it.
So it could either go straight vertically down, but what I decided to do was just swing it over the sponson itself. And what we then decided to do was to get going. So I needed to fit the kill cord. The kill cord goes round the wrist and then just magnetically plugs into the very bottom of the hand grip. So we got out into a tiny little bit of water and had a bit of a go. So Elizabeth had a go, I had a go. It just sat there nice and level. We can see on the top the readout of the amount of power that's in there. So if you see there, it's 3 bars. There's a tiny red band around the outside, which I haven't quite figured out yet, but I'll go to the manual and look at that in a minute. And then we just spent a few minutes trolling around in a very quiet part of the marina itself. A little bit of backwards and forwards, just getting to grips with it. And it seems very manoeuvrable, very smooth, and Elizabeth and I both spent a bit of time practicing putting the dinghy alongside and manoeuvring with the outboard itself. So I had a few attempts at parking the boat and then handed over to Elizabeth, and the extending arm had slipped down very slightly and it was a little bit more difficult to use. And because it was so short, there was a tendency to drop it right down. But we got that all sorted and fixed that quite cheerfully. Having inadvertently shrunk the length of the spar itself, there's a tiny little clamp on the top. It really is just a case of undo that. It then slides back out to the right length. It probably needs a little bit more, we need to put an extra turn on it, but then we can clamp it up and get going again. Once we were comfortable that we knew how to manoeuvre with it, backwards, forwards, getting alongside and so forth, Elizabeth then took it for a burn up and down Hasler Creek, and we stayed out for, in total, nearly 45 minutes, but we spent the last 15 minutes running the thing pretty much at full pelt, just in order to get a sense of what range we had on it.
I think it's fair to say that went pretty well. So we got out, worked it a little bit ahead and astern, tried manoeuvring with it. How did you find the manoeuvring?
It was really easy once I'd got the hang of it, and it was a lot better than using a petrol-driven outboard.
Yeah, being able to go from ahead to astern in a heartbeat and steer really easily.
It was great putting it into the boat. You didn't need that lifting up.
No, it was quite light.
Yeah, it was quite light.
And no danger of dropping it or spilling the fuel.
Yeah.
So that worked really well. We were out for 45 minutes, something like
45
that.
to 50 minutes.
We weren't hammering it, but we were manoeuvring and backwards, forwards, and we went from a nearly full battery, because I charged it 2 weeks ago and squeezed it up to the top, to 1 bar showing. It's really interesting. As you put the revs on, the number of bars disappears really quickly, and as you ease the revs off, the bars reappear. So we got 45 minutes at an average speed, I would think, of 2.5, maybe 2 knots, which means that a round trip of a mile there, mile back, in the ballpark, recognising that it was really benign conditions today and so forth. But if we're travelling a mile there and a mile back, it's quite a hike, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, certainly for an electric motor.
But also I found it really great that you don't have to do the which I am absolutely rubbish at.
Yeah.
But I have to say, it's it was good and very much like the French, stylish.
Okay. One thing that was a little bit of a concern when we looked at it and we decided was that the charger for it, because obviously it's a lithium battery, it's 29 point something volts, the charger for it takes a 240 plug, and there isn't a DC charger that we could find. So if we're alongside on shore supply, that's fine, top it up. If we're going to a pub, then we take the outboard and the charger with us, maybe, I don't know. But what we have also got is we've got a a little inverter. So if we're running the engine, we can put a bit of charge into the outboard, but I think that would be very much the last resort. Yeah. So first look, we're really pleased with the electric motor for the dinghy. Let's hope that
and lots of fun to come.
yeah, let's hope that it lives up to the promise. I hope you've enjoyed this video. We've certainly had a little bit of fun making it. Thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
Bye bye.